I can't tell. Something? Okay. Oh, well, I mean, I'm loud enough without it. So, anyway. Okay, so welcome to Lift the Rock. We're super excited to have you guys here for our very first Tuesday morning. And we've got two excellent presenters today. We're going to get to them in just a second, but I want to kind of run through how Lift the Rock works for you before we get going. So, a special thank you, as always, to our awesome friends at the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce. They've done a lot to help the Venture Center get kicked off and rolling and making everything working for us, so we appreciate their support. And also a big thank you to our friends at Janny King. Janny King is responsible for keeping our place as spick and span as you possibly can with this many entrepreneurs running around. So we are always grateful to Janny King. Okay. So, as you know, if you've been here before, we have some screaming fast internet. You can access that internet courtesy of Hyperleap and Broadband Development Group by logging on to Venture Center Guest, and the password is Real Ventures. When you get onto that page, just know that it is a little bit like signing on to the internet at a hotel. There's a little splash page. You have to say, yeah, I know I'm okay with this, and oh, by the way, I understand that once I become a Venture Center member, I have access to something even faster. So I have a quick question for you. What's the one thing that you think entrepreneurs need in order to succeed? Whoa, customers. What was that? What'd you say? Capital? Dogs? What? Hugs. Corey says they need hugs. So anyone who likes hugs can give Corey one here in just a minute. The answer to my technical question, what startups need to be successful, is not just hugs, but connections. I suppose hugs are a kind of connection. Anyways, we're going to specifically ask you guys to help our startups make connections, because the whole premise behind Lift the Rock is that we're going to connect the startup community and the entrepreneurial community with the existing business community. You can follow us on social at Venture Center. You'll be able to find Little Rock Tech Fest at LR Tech Fest and RaftUp at the RaftUp. And when you post things on social media today, if you would be so kind as to use the hashtag Lift the Rock so that we can find you and share the love, help you get some more followers and all that jazz. So to the end of what I mentioned before about connections, we're going to specifically ask you to make those connections. So while TechFest is pitching today, I want you to think about the kind of people that they need to meet and who you know that fits into that category. So do you know software developers? Do you know tech nerds or tech enthusiasts? Do you know tech companies? Do you know companies that do internal software development? Those are kind of the target people that Abby and Daniel want connections to. They might be great attendees, they might be great speakers. So these are people that can help build out the community. So we're going to let Daniel come up here and talk about Little Rock Tech Fest, but as he comes up, we got to welcome him, right? Because there's nothing like walking into a room devoid of energy. So you're going to welcome Daniel up, right? There's going to be clapping and applause, possibly dancing.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me? Good. So my name is Daniel. I've been organizing the Little Rock Tech Fest for the last 3 years. What is the Little Rock Tech Fest? Little Rock Tech Fest is a 2-day conference this year for learning and for software developers to come and learn and have fun and network. I wanted to present this today at Lift the Rock to help kind of give an idea of the inside workings of this, because a lot of people, they just come in and they kind of consume the services, but we kind of run this like a little bit like a business. Little Rock Tech Fest is a nonprofit organization with me as chair. Abby is also the chair and a few other people. Let's see. So first, let's start with what's our purpose? What is the point of having this conference? We first and foremost want to be the top conference choice for Arkansas software developers. The second goal for the Little Rock Tech Fest is to give a voice to local developers, allow them to come up and present and interact with their peers. And the third is to give local tech companies a place to attract talent, train their employees, and give back to the community. So, what's the problem with running a conference? Or what's the problem that we're trying to solve, I should say? One, conferences can be very expensive. Everyone has probably heard of South by Southwest, Build. Those conferences are upper tier, $2,500 to $3,000 plus, and that's just for the ticket. And of course, the flight and the hotel stay. Now, of course, those give you a lot of full week of content. Second problem for attendees is what will they learn there? Some conferences have a lot of talks that are catered to, I kind of jokingly say fluff topics, but topics that aren't geared towards what they want. It's just to kind of make them feel good. And third is, who will they meet there? Will they meet potential business partners, potential future coworkers? So what's our solution at Little Rock Tech Fest? One, low cost. The conference ticket for this year is $100 for professionals, $50 for students. One, it's local. It's actually right across the street this year at the State House Convention Center. So for Little Rock developers, instead of companies having to choose, okay, well, we're going to have our entire, we can't send our entire staff to a conference out in California. They can send half their staff or all their staff for 1 or 2 days in downtown Little Rock. The third big thing is we bring talent. So, we provide a good, I would say about 30-40% of our speakers, 30 to 40% of our speakers are local to Central Arkansas. The other part is external speakers that would like to come in, visit Arkansas, and see what we have. And who's our customer? Well, I've already mentioned the attendees. That's, first and foremost our goal. The second is speakers. Both these local speakers, like I mentioned already, they want to be able to kind of go up into a bigger stage or get into the speaker circuit. And for the speakers that are already in speaker circuits, they want to increase their branding. And of course, sponsors and local companies. And, if you haven't been before, we'll have a line of tables out on the outside where all of our attendees can freely meet local sponsors and local tech companies and potentially give them a resume or just interact with them, see if there's a product that they can use. So who's our competition? Not much in Central Arkansas. I know there's the Northwest Arkansas Tech Fest, which is in Northwest Arkansas, but nothing here in Central Arkansas catered to software developers. In terms of surrounding states, who we have to kind of compete against, we have Music City Code in November, which are both in Nashville. We also have Tulsa Tech Fest, which is, of course, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Those conferences are around the same scale as ours, where there are a few hundred to 500-600 attendees. And then, like I mentioned before, the larger conferences. We have Build, South by Southwest, WWDC, DevConnect. So every year, developers have to make a choice as to whether they're going to be able to continue and network and extend their, try to figure out where they're going to spend their money at. And we want to be that choice for them. What's our product? What's our business model? What we provide a 2-day conference this year with 36 sessions to choose from. Each of these sessions are roughly an hour long. We provide a space for people to interact with, interacting with local companies wanting talent. We also provide lunch both days, T-shirts, everyone loves T-shirts, and just general swag. This year we're also providing an after party for people to kind of mingle together. And one thing that we like to do to help cater to our speakers is have a speakers dinner the night before. This I love. This is the part I love because there's a lot of high energy because they're coming in excited to speak, and they get to come together and kind of meet with each other. Because during the day-to-day, the hour-to-hour bustle of the conference, you really don't get a chance to kind of take a breather and meet these people. So how do we do it? In previous years, we've been 100% covered by sponsors. This year, we're kind of shifting that ratio to where 70 to Actually, this year it's more about 90% is being covered by sponsors, and 10% is covered by the ticket cost. So I wanted to give you a quick briefing of some of our topics and what they're kind of catered towards. So I mentioned software developers. These are the type of technical talks they like to focus on. If some of these, I like to put up a lot of buzzwords. If you don't know what these are, that's fine. You can come to the conference and get a good intro to them. We cover everything from DevOps to databases. There's a lot of web development stuff because that's really big now. Actually, we have a lot of functional programming talks. And also we have a couple of Life of a Developer talks, which talks about mentoring, funny horror stories. Horror stories aren't funny, are they? But they're funny in hindsight, I guess. So kind of to wrap up here, I'd like to kind of just quickly introduce our team. There's me. I kind of write the checks, which sounds really important, but I just sign the check and I just kind of give money out. There's Abby Sims, who does the part where collecting the money, which is very, very important. Paul Gower, who helps out with websites, general day-to-day stuff. Kyle Numer, who helps also with the websites and our social media. There's Shell Gower, who helps out with anything you're holding in your hand and wearing that day. She would have helped out with. Michael Collins, who helps out with the registration and with the volunteering aspect and scheduling all of our volunteers throughout the day. And Chris Steven, who helps out with the technical stuff and also with just general whatever we need. So you can contact us at LittleRockTechFest.com. You can purchase tickets there. Again, the conference is Thursday, October 20th and Friday, October 21st. Oh, and actually in front of you, we actually have little cards, and there's actually so currently the tickets are $100, but right now we're at an early bird rate of $75. That's good till Thursday night, 9/15. Okay. September 15th, yeah. It is. Yeah. Yeah, not exactly at 9:15. At midnight on September 15th. Very precise. We're developers. After that, it'll be $100, but we do have an extra discount code here where you can get an extra $10 off by putting LRTF PC 10.
So do you guys have any questions? Questions? Anyone? Okay, well, while you're thinking of your question, I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I don't know, you may have addressed this a little bit, but like, what does this conference mean to you?
What does it mean to me?
Yeah.
So,
why are you passionate about it?
I'm passionate. So I'm a software developer. I have been I've been developing code since I was 7. And so for me, living in Central Arkansas, I've always lived in Arkansas, and I've always wanted a conference of this scale here in Little Rock. And for me, that's my passion. I think and for everyone on the team, that's our passion too. Like I mentioned, I honestly don't know of any other conferences of this size. I know there's a lot of user groups and there's events like this, but just somewhere where we can actually have a lot of technical talks, because like I mentioned, every year I have to ask my employer, hey, can you budget out $3,000 for me to go somewhere? And I want that choice here. So that's my passion.
Very cool. Thank you.
Any questions? Good? Yes, sir. So this is our 4th year doing it. We started in 2013. Actually, I do have a quick little slide, actually, right after that. I was kind of waiting for the charts. There's not hard numbers on that, but yeah, we started in 2013. This is one of the exciting things for me is to see the actual, it's still linear, I guess. But to see the growth going from a $2,000 budget to this year going to a $30,000 budget, seeing our projected attendees go from 200 people up to 450 people, and seeing kind of the excitement. So, yes, Carlos.
If you can take your question to the microphone, that would be awesome, because we do have people watching, and so they can't hear the question if it's not on a mic.
I'll probably keep walking out of frame, I bet. Oh, you're going to. Hello.
As the conference continues to grow, different part of this space, I'm in the business development and sales part of this space. Are you guys thinking about expanding it? Because there's a different segment. We have to go out and sell everything that developers go and create, and it's great, but it'd be nice to be able to make some connections at a conference like this with other people that are in that part of the space.
Right. So you're talking about like business owners and or just
Development.
the business development side of the thing. So like I mentioned, our primary focus is to bring developers in. Ultimately, we have in previous years talked about having separate tracks that are catered towards, for example, like what Made by Few, if some of y'all are familiar with, they cater towards the design community. Or like in this case, like you mentioned, business developers. There's conferences for that, but yes, as we grow, that's one thing we would like to keep adding on. A lot of our talks, they're very technical based, and so I don't want people to be afraid of that, because some of the talks are about, like I mentioned, about life as a developer. So, and a lot of these, even if you're not 100 like a developer yourself, I think it's a good market for you to get into, so you can understand the technical side of things. And so, understanding some of these buzzwords about SEO and what is like Docker and Amazon Web Services. What are these things? This is a good conference to get to come into as a non-technical person. Yes.
Hey everybody. My question is around, I think it's in the biz dev, but also from an entrepreneur starting to build out platforms. Mm-hmm. I have more involvement in understanding how to architect a solution, and I think a big part of it is the drivers of costs and time, right? So how long does it take, and how much does it cost? Well, there ever be a conversation in some of those subjects to talk about the sizing strategies and cost expectations when trying to do certain things, right? So you may go into the functionality and the cool stuff, but then the business guy and the person trying to architect the solution is like, okay, that's great, but how much is that going to cost me, and how long is it going to take me, and how many resources will I need to dedicate to that? So will you cover any of those sort of things?
So in terms of the conference and what our speakers present, not directly in the course of their talk, some of them will inadvertently talk about that and give you an insight into that as an entrepreneur. What I think the extra value is, and part of the conference is also get that space. So afterwards, we are telling all of our speakers to make sure you allocate kind of what I like to call office hours. So we are planning on providing a definitive space where, because a lot of times after someone talks, you'll come up to them and talk with them. Right. But we plan to give a space where people can go and have that deeper conversation where you can pick their brain about that.
Okay, good.
And all of our speakers love doing that.
I mean, because I love to highlight the benefits of technology that's efficient in cost, and if we can identify the resources in this area in which we can say, hey, great, we have a great resource base of DevOps and database developers, that's fantastic, but where is our Angular, where's our AWS guys and all that sort of thing? So I don't know. That you'll probably cover that anyway, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? I thought I saw Greg.
Well, one question was answered already. So good morning. What process do you go through each year to take any input, if any, on the schedule for the next year? So how do you select the topics and the speakers?
By the seat of our pants, it feels like.
So is there a plan maybe for creating some mechanism to bring input from the community to design a curriculum for the next time?
So one thing that we changed prior to this year has been, as we've grown our reputation, initially it was tough. Like basically if you presented a talk, you pretty much got in. This year, we have 36 sessions. We had close to 100 people submit talks. So we had a lot bigger choice to kind of pick from. But with that said, this year is, it's kind of we plan to do that definitely next year, where we actually plan to have community insight. So, like for example, this year we used papercall.io to manage the speaker talks. Prior to that, we just kind of did, what did we do, Wufoo? We did like a Google form, but the papercall.io is low cost. Actually, for us this year, it's free under 200 submissions. But the benefit of that is like we can actually give access to the community as like contributors or volunteers, and they can like rate the talks. So we plan to definitely incorporate that next year. And kind of a segue into the next question of like, when is the next year's conference? That's something that a lot of times the conference, because I'm doing this on the side, So I have a day job, and everyone else on the team has a day job. So it gets, we're trying to get it to where we can plan out further than just like 6 months. Like next year, we're going to go ahead. We're tentatively trying to book next year's venue and time. So as we get better at it, that's something we're going to definitely incorporate.
Anybody else?
Nope. All right. Well, Daniel will be around. So
Yes.
once we get done with these, the next presentation, you'll have an opportunity to walk up to Daniel and ask any questions that you may have of him or Abby or Paul or any of the other organizers that are here. So thank you.
Awesome.
Give
Thank
them
you.
a little love. Awesome. I would love that. And if you can give that back to Steve, that would be great. All right. So today we have 2 presenters, which is always an excellent day. So while our next presenter is getting mic'd up, I just want to remind you that RaftUp, and this is Corey Bolkins, the founder of RaftUp. He's, woo, that's right, woo for Corey. Anyways, you get to do that again in a second, Paul. So, so RaftUp needs to meet these kinds of people. Everybody always needs to meet investors, right? He needs to meet marina owners, parks and tourism agencies, anybody who's influential at a chamber of commerce. So I'm actually going to do something a little different before you come up here. You have a phone with you? Do you have a phone with you? So I highly suggest that you go to whatever app store you may use, because they are now on Android and on Apple. And check out the RaftUp app. If you haven't already downloaded it, you can totally do that. And yeah, hopefully you'll be on the water and you'll be able to put it to use. So I'm going to have Corey come up here and tell you all there is to know about RaftUp, and we're going to welcome him back up here with Paul's style hooping and hollering. Right? So, oh, come on, you're silent. Come on. Oh, yeah.
All right, can you hear me?
Go on, what's up?
Hey, everybody. Good morning. My name is Corey Bolkins. Some of you have heard about RaftUp, and if you haven't, I'm excited to share with you what we are. My name is Corey Bolkins, CEO and founder of RaftUp. We make boating safer, simpler, and more enjoyable. But think of it this way. It's Google Maps on the water, right? If you use Google Waves, it's even better. It's kind of a social capability. We're solving an issue where 4,000 boating-related incidents happen every year, resulting in close to $40 million of property loss or damage. The 3 biggest contributors to those incidents is operator inexperience, inattention to the surroundings, and improper lookout, right? Know before you go. So I'm going to highlight some issues. Craig Strickland here and his friend last December went duck hunting in Oklahoma, and before he went out there, he tweeted to his followers and said, "Into the storm, duck hunting." They found his body 4 days later. These 2 young gentlemen went boating in Jupiter, Florida last year. They texted their family in the morning. They posted an image to Instagram that said, "Peace out, Jupiter," and never were heard from again. Now, what's the similarities here? These are recreational boaters across different age groups, saltwater, freshwater. They're using their mobile devices and interacting on social platforms. I am happy to show you that we've solved those problems with a mobile device. We can share your location in real time. Within 5 miles of anyone around you running RaftUp, we can push notify in real time your position and a reason. Anyone in your contacts list in your community will get a real-time update of your position, last known location, and what is the reason they can get to your help. Right? Safety's not sexy, so what do we bring everybody into it for, right? Cool places to go to, the fun side of boating, right? Restaurants, dive locations, fishing locations, boat ramps, bathrooms. Who's used the bathroom in the water? I have. Everybody has to, right? But what I'm trying to showcase is it's not another app you download. You take it wherever you are. You go on vacation down in Florida, take RaftUp with you. Become part of a community. It's a social community, but at the core of it, it's a safety device. Traction, it's been awesome. As we launched on Memorial Day of this year, we have over 2,000 user downloads, 10 average daily downloads, between 10 and 25 active daily users. That's pretty impressive. We launched in Arkansas, and we're now across 25 different states and 2 different countries. Okay? We have 6 partner resellers. A partner reseller is a marina, right? The value proposition for them is that they rent boats to people that are unfamiliar with a body of water. We showcase where they can go, how they can have a great time, and if they break down, guess what? That marina doesn't have to spend a lot of money trying to track them down and have that conversation. They know exactly where they're at. And the next thing, the greatest thing for us, is that we're creating partnerships with 911 and fire
departments. We've created a real-time look into bodies of water and surrounding areas to where if somebody hits an SOS, they get a real-time lookup about that position, that person, and if it escalates, they know exactly where they're at. There's no longer this conversation. They can focus on the problem rather than trying to have this explanation of what's going on. All right, so I'm excited. You may have heard about RaftUp, but I'm really excited about this product. We're going to visualize flow data for rivers, lakes, and streams. We're going to tell you water temperature, flow rates, how fast it's going, how high it is. Visually, we all look at traffic patterns, everybody. When you're leaving the door and getting to work and go, God, it's going to take 30 minutes to get to the office. Well, guess what? When you're on the weekend and you want to spend more time having a great time, you say, hey, I want to go float the buffalo. And some of us that may not be familiar could flip open RaftUp, plug in and look at FlowWriter, which is a new feature with RaftUp that we're working on, and we can showcase whether it's ideal, the water temperature, and then potentially here are the nearby outfitters that could give you a canoe and a half. That's amazing, because today you have to go and look at a chart and understand what 300 cubic foot per second is. Another cool feature that we're working on. We want feedback. We're eliciting feedback here. It's a Bluetooth device that connects on the person or on your keychain. It connects to our application. You can emit an SOS device. You could be on a wave runner. Your phone's in the dry box, and it's going to then notify people around you if you got in trouble. Right? Phones are getting waterproof. This is waterproof. At nighttime, it will glow. We're working on potentially partners integrating this technology into life jackets. Our competition in the app space goes across a couple of gamuts. Spot and Navionics. Spot is a navigation service, very expensive to use. Got to buy some technology, showcases location awareness and some social features. Navionics is a navigation application, primarily targeted at the captain in the boat. Active Captain is a very similar application. It's got some location information and it's targeted at the captain in the boat. Unsexy. And then BoatUS and Ceto, they're not competition. They have some apps, but what they could be is a potential partner for us. Because if you break down and we can share your location in real time, and you're not a customer of BoatUS or Ceto in those areas, they get more business and you can get help. Just to go into it, our community is huge. 89 million people participated in recreational boating last year. That's 1/3 of every American. 36 million of those either rented or own a boat, and 9 million of those folks live around Arkansas. Okay? And if we were to lift and shift this model, because we don't just limit what we're watching on the body of water, and since we're partnering with those 911 call centers, we can move into cycling, UTV, ATV, hiking. That's over $1 billion industry, and it takes our expansion from just 89 million people to 150 million people. Our subscriptions right now, we're hyper-focused on recreational boating. We're looking at subscription models where we charge an annual subscription, but guess what today? I'm announcing that we will no longer charge a membership to RaftUp. No longer. It's free to anyone who wants to use it. You know why? Because we want to build a community. Nobody pays for apps these days, right? Nobody. And if you want your children to use this application when you're letting their boat go out, then give it away for free. Build a community. We'll be able to then go after targeted marketing, build these relationships with 911 call centers, and offset that cost. I have over 10 years of experience in Fortune 500 companies building technology solutions, doing business consulting, technology, training, you name it. I've done it. My wife is the CFO of our company. She's been a CPO and accountant for over 12 years. Brian Bidwell, our CTO, he's been a lead developer for almost 20 years, architecting solutions. He's phenomenal. And then Jeff Amrine is a board member of RaftUp. We're actually seeking a strategic industry board member. So if you know of anyone that's in the boating recreational space, a manufacturer, sits on a board, or just absolutely loves what I'm talking about, please have them come and speak with me. My name's Corey Volkins. Stay safe. Have fun. RaftUp. Thank you.
I know you've got them, and when you do, you're going to trot your little tail up to this mic, and you're going to ask the question.
Show of hands.
Come
I'd
on.
love to get some customer feedback real quick. Show of hands. Who would use this flow rider information when they go kayaking or canoeing at the water? Awesome. Love it. Okay.
That's exactly where I was going to go with this. What about the fishing community, particularly with this app that uses the lakes? Can you do the water temperature and the flows from the dams? I mean, do you have
That's
all that
right. So what we're
information
going to, Sean, so that's a great question. The question is, what are we going to do with this data? Could it benefit fishing? And what it's going to do is we're going to collaborate and aggregate USGS, NOAA data, and Corps of Engineer information so that we can give you, if it's available, again, this is free information from the government, water temperature, clarity, if we can get that information. So if those fishermen out there are watching when spawn turns or turns into spawn season in the springtime, that's awesome. You know, when water temperature goes from like a 60 to a 65 and approaching 70, that's when it starts telling people to get to the water. Clarity is going to tell you what color of bait to use, right? So this, I want it to be a utility, right, that you go and use. And it's not, again, it's not just for the fishermen, it's almost for everybody in this application. And I want you to come back to it and use it as a resource. So John, thanks, that's a good question. Bring it on, yeah.
Maybe one, two more. With that app, is that going to be an additional cost? I know it's free for the app. Is there additional cost if they do buy this portion of it? And what about the friends and family app, get a part of it?
So you bring up a good point. We do have to monetize. I have to stop giving it away and paying for everybody to use it. But what we're going to do is we're going to give it away for free to start testing what the usage is. If we find product market fit, which means we know what demand is and people are really accurately buying it, then we may consider a premium content purchase that says, hey, I love that information and I want it and I can't get it anywhere else, and I'm willing to pay $10 or whatever. Guys, I'll give you an interactive map that's more accurate than any map you can buy in the store, and they charge $15 for one body of water. I'm going to give you every body of water in the country and potentially the globe, along with water information in real time. Nobody's doing this.
Okay, well, while you're pondering your question, so
If I'm on RaftUp, right, if I'm using the app,
Yeah.
are there other applications for me? Like if I'm not on the water and I'm on land,
Yeah.
can I still send out an SOS call?
Yeah. So it's
and then
great.
my people would know?
Yeah. So we don't limit it to the body of water. We actually purposely left it open to where you can turn it on and keep it on in your person. So if you want to, if you're late at night, you have a kid that's in college, if you're going hiking and biking and you still like to have Strava running in the background, guess what? You can still utilize our application. Okay? And again, if you want to hand raise and receive push notifications for an SOS, do it. By the way, this is not for life-threatening. If something happens to you, life-threatening, call 911. Right? This is just a situation where you're sharing your location in real time. But until that day comes, yeah, download it, try it out. Good question. Thanks, Jessica.
So I was curious about the SOS. Are you looking to also not just take advantage of interacting with authorities and stuff, but also what about other RaftUp members that may be around? Like say you're on a hike, you get stranded on the canoe or whatever, you could do an SOS and someone that's close by could help out. Obviously, it's not life-threatening, but like, have you thought about that as well? Like using
No,
the
that
mesh
happens.
network? Is that already kind of what you're doing?
That's already in there. So what happens today, everybody, is if you download the app, fill out your profile, you can put your emergency contact information there. You can send out an SOS. Anyone within 5 miles of your position will get a push notification. You can click on that notification, and it takes you to that person's location. You don't have to be friends with them, but we're trying to help them out. That's right. It's a digital hand raise. Hey, I need help. And anyone in your contact list will always be notified wherever you're at, wherever in the world. Okay? And it's free. Yeah, good question. I don't think I covered that, so thanks, Paul. Come on, guys. I need some more questions. Anything else? Please tell your friends and family. Go ahead.
So one thing I didn't see in your pitch deck was projections for financial performance. Could you talk about that over the next 3 to 5 years?
I could do that. Yeah, definitely. I could show you that. Typically, I don't do that depending on the audience. Since we're pre-revenue, we've incurred around $6,500 in revenue so far this year. Our projections for the next 5 years is to reach over $10 million in 5 years. That's over 1 million individuals across the globe. So next year, our forecast is $50,000, 30,000 users. And then we're going to see a 4x to 6x growth, either revenue or user base. And really what we're going to see is a trade-off between potential premium subscription purchases and a targeted advertising model. But really, I think where our bread and butter is going to happen is we start to create more of these maintenance annual subscriptions with 911 call centers. And it's a proven market. I think we can do between $2,500 and $3,000 a year annually to these different areas. And I think there's a little over, 25,000 of those locations just in the U.S. alone. So yeah, great question. Yeah, I could give, and one thing to note about startups, as your pre-revenue and things like that, I could give you a forecast that looks brilliant, and it's a wonderful hockey stick, but all in reality, guys, it's a J-curve that looks like you're going through hell and back. So, yeah.
So, talk about if you don't have a signal. There's a lot of places in Arkansas where there's no signal.
Sure.
Talk about that.
Sure. So what we do is we utilize the phone's GPS capability. So when you go to a location, we're going to front load all the points of interest that you care about. We'll actually keep last known location, so we're actually pinging you every 20 seconds. The reason why we do that, we don't want to kill your battery, right? So we'll have your last known location, and as soon as your phone picks up a data signal, boom, it goes. It's faster and actually more efficient than a phone conversation. Trying to make a voice call actually takes up more bars to make that connection, whereas your location is really just a string of lat long, right? So we do keep your last known location. The app still runs when you lose connection. That's why we went and built native rather than building a web app. If you had a web app and used this application and you lost signal, forget it. It's game over. The app's worthless. Yeah, great question.
So I duck hunt a lot, and trying to find the right water level is always a huge issue. Really, I have to collect data from like 3 or 4 different sources. From water level to the weather, and then also with the solar lunar tables. Trying to figure out wildlife activity, that kind of thing. You were just speaking a minute ago. Could you? And I was wondering if you could expand a little bit more, like when you were talking about when, the water temperatures, fluctuate, and or really how you're going to aggregate those different data sources into this map.
Sure. So the question is, how are we going to take this data and aggregate it all? You know what we're doing? We're figuring that out as we go. And I think a lot of what we're going to have to do, and we're really going to focus on Arkansas first, just because, we live here. But not only that, we're going to have to figure out, because the USGS will give you what their cubic foot per second is, just to go into the nitty-gritty and details. But they may make a determination whether that's ideal or flood stage or not. But if you go and have a conversation with a provider like Silver Hill or a couple other those Buffalo outdoor outfitters and things like that, they'll give you a different view of what they believe is ideal flow rate or water temperature. And we're going to try to solicit feedback from those outfitters to help us build an algorithm that would determine that feature, right? So I think it's going to be a combination of aggregated data sets, user-generated input, and an algorithm that we'll put together. And I think that will allow us to be competitive in a space that may potentially drive more.
So how do you engage the users during seasons that people aren't always on the water? Users aren't always going to be on the water depending on what season it is and what they are on the water for.
So how do we stay relevant? Because of seasonality. Is that what you're asking for? Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to try to target, and it's through a lot of customer validation and gone out and meeting with a lot of folks. I actually met with a lot of folks from Minnesota. They do a lot of ice fishing. And they're like, oh my God, we could map out our fishing huts and then keep them knowing where they're at year over year, and we can share a location when there's a snowstorm and the weather gets bad. And I was like, oh, okay, I got a market here. I can start going off in that direction, right? I can also focus on Florida and the areas that are kind of defensible against seasonality. And anyone on the coast really actually goes sailing all the time. If you're a person that really loves what that is, but how do I communicate to them? Facebook groups, it's blogging groups and things like that. So what I've been doing is joining every day 10 to 50 different Facebook pages all the time, interacting, loving, sharing, interacting, growing that that resource. And that's really with the guys and help from Steve Rice there and the brilliant individual in the background giving me some mentorship. Because what those relationships allowed me to do is start to grow. So for example, and a good question, through Facebook I was able to create relationships in Chesapeake Bay. We now have over 700 boat ramps we just mapped last night for Chesapeake Bay. Now I'm going to go after marinas and restaurants and things like that. And I had one individual come to me from this one group and he goes, Corey, I want you to join my group because I have 5,000 people from our Facebook group that would love what you just built. Right? So through this integration, I'm able to span across those locations. And one other thing I forgot to mention, because it's just there's so much information, this summer I've helped save 2 families in a bad situation. Weather came up, they didn't know where they were, they wanted to find the nearest cover when the storm came in, and they found a marina, and they both occurred on Greers Ferry Lake. I got personal emails that said, you are our go-to app. We're new to the area. We use it all the time. We will always talk to our community about what you are, because everyone can benefit from what this is, and you help us. Thank you for building this, Corey.
If you're using Facebook, how can you not feel that someone else is going to see what you're doing on there and replicate your business? Or
I hope
do you
they do.
have a technology? Okay.
Yeah. So I really don't care about competition right now. I am so early in creating a solution that I'm out of it and passionate about that if I cared about what they were doing, I would not build what I think I need to be building. And I'm using information that's going to solve a valid problem. And I want to talk on Facebook. I'm going to pitch RaftUp, and I'm going to these events because guess what? Nobody's going to beat me at this. Nobody. And I've been running this on a shoestring budget. Like, guys, just imagine what would happen if I had a team of folks focusing on this full time. Crazy.
So your last story just brought up a point that was in my mind I wanted to ask about. Seems to me like when we're on the water, when I'm on the water, the biggest threat is weather that comes up on you unaware. I didn't see anything in your presentation about integrating weather alerts to boaters or when they're out on the water. Is that something you're doing or plan to do in the future?
That's a good question. I think it goes into, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? So the question is, are we going to incorporate weather alerts and things like that? I think it's great and we can do that. But how many in here already have a weather app on their phone that they use every day? And how many already get notifications from bad weather comes up from those apps? That's your answer. I'm not going to spend the money if somebody's already got it. Now, if we get enough demand for it, then by all means. But I'm going to go after areas in which I'm going to differentiate and kick the tail out of things that are not happening today, and that's one of these things, right? Or one of these things. So, no, good question. Come on down.
Touched on this a little bit with talking about Facebook and stuff, but what's your marketing strategy, not only to the users, but how are you going to market to the people that are ultimately going to fund this, which are your advertisers, your boat clubs, your restaurants, the people in Chesapeake Bay that you were talking about?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I don't show the advertising model so much because sometimes investors laugh me out of the room. Not laugh, but when you're early stage and say advertising, like, you got to get over 1 million people, folks. I mean, it's going to take a while. So how do I showcase the benefits of them participating? And this doesn't show you too well, and I should have thrown a slide in there. We allow businesses to showcase and advertise, targeted. Right, and at the bottom of this, and if you have the app open, actually what it says is sponsored by. So any one of these points of locations can be sponsored by a business. So take, for example, Bell Chevrolet. And if anybody knows Bell Chevrolet, share the story with them. Bell Chevrolet, do you think they sell trucks to boaters? Like everyone who ever goes boating? How would they like to target, advertise, and sponsor every boat ramp, fishing location, and cool place within the lakes around this marketing area? And how many times do you think that somebody's going to see that, click on a potential free oil change, and then potentially go there and get that oil change? Right? So they can sponsor points of interest, they can showcase their location. It's very similar to Yelp and things like that. 911 call centers and those guys, they just want this thing to work and work really well. They want it to be useful on their persons, on their fire team. Talk to Assistant Chief Doug Coney at the Little Rock Fire Department. He wants it for this, the river, right? Arkansas River. They have Androids. I built it for Android. They now have it. I provide real-time location services that's transparent and works across just water but land. So when I tell them, And not only that, but I had feedback from a fire chief from Osage Beach up in Missouri. I built it for him, and guess what? When I solved his problem, I just solved it for almost everyone else in this country. So that's a great question. No, go ahead. Am I reaching them? Oh, so right now I have to hire a sales force, right? So I haven't gone directly to them to execute against that model just yet. I'm trying to curate my product, and I'm about to execute that. Now, I have doing a lot of direct FaceTime with my fire department, so I've sat down with the Pulaski County. It's a lot of FaceTime. It's a salesperson. I'm going to have to find somebody that's like me and a whole lot of them, right, in that space that know the space really well. So thanks. Yeah, that's how I'm going to do it. Thanks. Sorry about the long way to get to that answer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
So, good luck for Corey. Okay, so Corey would probably enjoy meeting some of the same people that, our friends at TechFest would, but he also has some specific asks. So Corey needs to meet investors, marina owners, outdoor recreation people, the dude who owns Bale Chevrolet, so if you've got the hookup to Johnny Bale, or Frank Fletcher, or I don't know, any of the other ones Steve Landers would do. Anyone whose last name is Landers might work. I mean, there's a lot of them. Bass Pro, yeah. If you think he needs to meet them, he probably does, right? So you've got cards in front of you that look exactly like the ones on my fantastic little screen. On the back of those cards, that's where you're going to write down who you know that Corey needs to know because of RaftUp, or who you know that needs to know about Little Rock Tech Fest. I'm not going to ask you for their contact information. I'm just going to ask for a commitment that you'll introduce your person to my person. We're going to collect those cards from you, and I'll follow up with you about those connections. We are tracking the businesses generated by these fantastic connections that you guys are helping make in the community. So that's all we have for today. We'll be back here same time, same day, Tuesday next week. And next week, Citadel Systems will be presenting. It's a cybersecurity firm, so you won't want to miss that. We'll see you next week. Feel free to hang out, have coffee, eat those muffins, and meet the people.